born in Hartford, Connecticut, and spent his early years developing a love for science, especially microorganisms, maps, and exotic places. While in high school, he worked at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine studying yeast and exploring microbiology. During Dr. Hotez's undergraduate studies at Yale University, his main focus was on studying parasitic and tropical diseases in faraway locales as he received his degree in molecular biophysics and biochemistry. After graduating, he attended the Rockefeller Cornell MD PhD program, just in time to take part in some of the first applications of molecular biology to the study of parasites and other tropical disease pathogens. He and his team started the efforts to develop the first human hookworm vaccine, which has, 30 years later, resulted in several other vaccines for parasitic diseases. He then began his residency in pediatrics at Massachusetts General Hospital's Children's Service and Harvard Medical School. After, he finished his pediatric infectious disease and molecular parasitology postdoctoral fellowship at Yale. After all this education, he ended up working as a pediatrician at the Yale New Haven Children's Hospital. During his time in the MD PhD program, he met his wife, Anne, who serves as an essential key to all of Dr. Hotez's successes. He and Anne have 4 children in total: Matt, Emmy, Rachel, and Daniel. Rachel was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD for short. This diagnosis changed the entire trajectory of Dr. Hotez's family's life. In 2000, the entire Hotez family moved to the Washington, D.C. area for Dr. Hotez's new position as department chair at George Washington University. He and his team of scientists were working to develop the first ever vaccines for diseases like the human hookworm vaccine. For Dr. Hotez, working in the nation's capital allowed him to advocate for public policy towards his life's work: vaccines. For example, through advocacy and teamwork, they have treated almost 1 billion people with partial or complete NTD packages. In the midst of all this, Dr. Hotez and his wife continued to struggle to find the right way to raise and care for Rachel and her needs. Later, in 2010, Baylor College of Medicine and Texas Children's Hospital invited Dr. Hotez to establish the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Texas Medical Center. Dr. Hotez, Anne, Rachel, and Daniel all moved to Texas to make this dream a reality. Dr. Hotez and his team went from working to develop 2 vaccines to more than a half-dozen vaccines targeting various diseases across the globe. Rachel continues to live with Anne and Dr. Hotez to this day, and they are still trying to figure out the best way to give Rachel a future with happiness and purpose.
Throughout Hotez's career as a scientist, he saw and heard many things that he agreed and disagreed with regarding vaccinations and autism. He stated, "Early on, meaning from the time Rachel was first diagnosed, it was clear to me that autism is a complex neurologic and developmental process or group of processes that must stem from alterations in the brain architecture and neurochemicals beginning way before birth." In stating this, he illustrates that vaccines are not what caused his daughter's autism. In order to show this, he describes the creation and history of vaccines, as well as his own experiences as a pediatrician, scientist, and father. While explaining many illnesses, including those that led to death, Hotez describes examples of when vaccines have worked. He states, "So what happened? Why did invasive Hib disease disappear? The answer is that a first-generation Hib vaccine became available. But this wasn't all that vaccines accomplished. The vaccine made for smallpox was a huge success story. Smallpox became the first disease to ever be completely eradicated. Because of this, Hotez believed that the smallpox eradication is what was the key stimulus for launching vaccinations globally. Scientists have been able to save so many lives through different mechanisms, including Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Gavi would help to get EPI, also known as Expanded Program and Immunization, to the next level in terms of both expanding vaccine coverage and introducing new vaccines for Hib, rotavirus, and pneumococcal disease. While Gavi was being put to use, a reduction in deaths became evident. There was roughly a 40% decrease in deaths as a result of vaccination with the 2 new vaccines introduced by Gavi, and about a 60 to 70% reduction in deaths in most of the childhood diseases. Because of the reduction of deaths, it was shown that Gabby was one of the greatest public health success stories. Although, just like anything going good, there will always be those who choose to see the bad. This is when a few radical hypotheses came to light, including one that seems to be widely believed in today's society. In the journal Medical Hypothesis, a group proposed that autism represented a form of mercury poisoning related to a mercury-containing preservative found in some vaccines known as thimerosal. And here in the mini hypothesis, linking vaccines to autism, Hotez explains that there is no evidence to support these claims, at least in humans. Hotez, being both a father to an autistic child and a man of science, believes that vaccines work and that they do not cause autism. He believes that the anti-vaccine movement is a disruptive force. Because of this movement, many people decided against vaccinating their children, resulting in a tremendous growth rate of death resulting from various diseases.
Rachel Hotez is the daughter of Dr. Hotez and the main character in Dr. Hotez's book, Vaccines Did Not Cause Rachel's Autism. Rachel was diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum disorder, around 19 months, requiring her family to change their whole way of life. Some people made the speculation that after Rachel was given the infant immunizations, that is when her ASD showed up, and so this led to the thought that vaccines cause autism. With ASD, there comes an onset of other impairments, ranging from social accidents to abnormal behaviors and interests. For Rachel, she found pleasure and the most joy in seeing things destroyed, or being completely reckless, sometimes harming herself and others. Dr. Hotez recalls when Rachel would destroy things, saying, running was just one of Rachel's impulsive behaviors. She was also fascinated with throwing objects or dumping things into the floor or into the toilet. These various acts of behavior made family life hard for the Hotezes, especially as Rachel got older and began to develop more independence. As Rachel got into middle school and then high school, her destructive tendencies subsided, but she would act out, often hiding in bathrooms and avoiding work when it got too hard. Her learning capabilities were not progressing in the manner that they should, and it came to light that there would be little hope of Rachel going to college or even finding a job for her lack of focus and drive. Hotez writes, but at the same time, she's not acquiring the skills that will make her employable, and her personality is so strong and oppositional that we are unsure whether her having a job will be an attainable goal. Her parents wanted to see her succeed in life and even had hoped that there might still be a chance that she can have a more normal life. To this day, they are doing everything in their power to make sure that Rachel can still grow and thrive in this world. At the time that this book was written, Rachel successfully got a job at Goodwill and is continuing to thrive into leading a more independent life.
Dr. Hotez explains with an odd admiration the anti-vax movement. These parents have been organized and efficient in spreading false information. These parents, who are part of the anti-vax movement, believe that something in the vaccinations given to children 18 to 24 months old is causing autism spectrum disorder. Whether it be the MMR vaccine, thimerosal, alum, or administering an overwhelming amount of vaccinations in a short time period. Though Dr. Hotez believes these claims false, he proves the detrimental effect that the rumors are having on the public health. One of the several examples he elaborates on was a 2014 measles outbreak in California. 125 cases of measles were recorded. At least a third of these patients had visited a Disney theme park, and another third had close contact with an individual who had visited a Disney theme park. Dr. Hotez found this outbreak predictable, because he knew that in preceding years, vaccination rates in the area had dropped more than 5%. Whereas measles had almost been completely eradicated in the US, the anti-vax movement is causing more and more outbreaks of this disease. Though they may dismiss it as a minor illness, Dr. Hotez educates his readers about how measles can cause fevers, which can lead to seizures and brain damage. This book shows its readers how a disease that was once almost completely eradicated in the US has resurfaced thanks to parents who won't listen to their doctors. Autism is a disorder that affects someone we all know, a family member, a peer, or a friend. The impact autism has in an individual's life and the lives of their family members is emotionally exhausting. Dr. Hotez shares the toll that was placed on his family when they all welcomed Rachel into the world. He shared how his wife suffered depression and how Rachel's siblings were often overshadowed by Rachel's intense needs. Dr. Hotez lets his readers into his personal life and writes about his and his wife's anxieties for Rachel as she is now an adult. They are concerned about her employment and her safety. Though they are calling out for help and guidance, Dr. Hotez and his wife's voices are overpowered by those in the anti-vax movement. Medical professionals have been so busy trying to discredit anti-vaxxers' claims that they have been ignoring the question of what really does cause autism, or more importantly, how can we support the children and adults with autism. Dr. Hotez shows us in his firsthand experience with autism and outlines his family's and daughter's needs, none of which include eradicating vaccines.
I really enjoyed this book because it made me think about how other people's lives are affected with ASD. Coming from a large family where ASD is very prominent, it made me realize how important it is to take measures into learning more about ASD and finding out ways to help families who are also affected by ASD. It was very eye-opening to see that even with her autism, Rachel is able to live a productive life in the way that she can. This book was very influential in that it makes you truly think about how vaccines have a huge part in our lives, and it's our job to learn more about them and how they can play a role in ASD and other neurological disorders.
I believe that this book is extremely important because it is one that educates all. Peter Hotez is not one-sided when making his argument. He as well has experienced the hardships of a parent who has an autistic child. This in turn will educate parents more to understand the necessity for vaccines and to feel comfort when knowing this author has an autistic child but still believes in vaccines for the good of the world.
This book has made me more empathetic towards families raising children on the ASD spectrum. It's made me more understanding of autistic individuals, especially those that can be violent, and it has helped me to see the lack of resources for people on the spectrum. This book speaks up during a time in history when we seriously need someone with knowledge and experience to do so. With anti-vax ideas becoming more and more common, all of these previously eradicated diseases could very likely make a comeback. This book has encouraged me to be more vocal about my opinions and to stand up against anti-vaxxers, just like Dr. Hotez.
When we got together to discuss our reading, each member of our group mentioned how this book elicited strong feelings from each of us. This book made me frustrated. It made me want to walk down the street shouting at strangers like, "Please vaccinate your kids." But reflecting on why each of us felt this irritation helped me realize why Dr. Hotez wrote his book in the first place. He saw a grave necessity to educate the public, and especially parents, about the value of vaccinations and the impact autism has on families.